Folder permissions are important because they control who can do what with files and folders in that particular folder. So I spent a lot of my time in industry documenting out these folder permissions, setting those folder permissions, making sure that the right people had access. So for example, when I was working in the oil and gas industry, we had the exploration company employees who needed access to certain accounting folders. We had people in the production company who needed access to different folders. We had a huge spreadsheet where we documented all of these folder permissions. And periodically we would have to go through an audit that, yes, indeed, we have set the folder permissions correctly. Now, typically, if you're just the administrator user on your computer, you can change any files and folders that you want. You have full control to everything. But in larger environments where you're sharing folders with other people, your access is going to be more limited. So we're going to take a look at some of these options now. So I'm going to press Control E to open up my File Explorer. Again, you can right click on your Start menu and find the File Explorer. Also, here it is. I can take a look at everything. So I'm just going to right click. I've got this desktop folder here that's in my administrator user directory. If I right click on it, I'm going to go to Properties. And I'm going to go to the Security tab, and I can see who has access to this. So the system, that's the Windows system, can do a bunch of stuff. That's fine. I've got the administrator user and the administrators group here that have permissions applied separately. If I look at my administrator user, we can see what gets checked here. So full control, that's like everything. I've got a list down here that kind of describes what we're looking at here. Full control, I can read everything. I can edit all the files in here. I can delete files. I can also change the permissions. That's really the key idea between just having read-write access and full control. Full control, I can change permissions. Now, if I just have modify access, well, I can read, edit, delete things, but I can't change the permissions. So maybe I want my accountants to be able to read and write documents. They can edit their reports, but I don't want the accountants for the production company granting access to the people in the exploration company, so I might not give them full control. Maybe we don't want people to be able to delete anything. We'll just give them maybe read and execute. So when I worked in industry, we had a folder where we stored a bunch of applications. We wanted the accountants to be able to run those applications, but we didn't want them accidentally selecting an application and hitting that delete key or accidentally dragging and dropping those files into the recycle bin, because yes, that did happen one time. So we would want to remove that modify permission. If we want people to be able to see what's there, just to check, maybe you want database administrators to make sure that a backup was run and that you can actually see the backup file that was created, but you don't want them to be able to read that database backup's contents. You might give the list folder contents permissions. Then we have read. You can view the files. You can open them up in your editor and see what's there, but you can't change. Or you can give somebody write access specifically so that they can add and edit files and folders. So different permissions, a combination might be useful. Again, we typically apply these permissions to groups and then add users to those groups. So I'm going to go through this challenge real quick. I'm going to create a new user. I'll create the user first just for funsies. I'm going to, in the start menu, type lusrmgr.msc, the local user manager. And I'm going to just select users, right click on it, click new user, and I'll call it accountant person. Full name is accountant person the third. And the password p@ssword1, p@ssword1. Hopefully those matched. Hopefully I didn't make a typo there. I'll just create this account. I'm not going to really do anything with that account. I'm not going to log in with that account, but let's see, where did I say to create this? Let's create a secure documents folder. So I'll go to my desktop. I'm going to right click in some empty space and click new folder, and I'll call this secure documents. So you can see that folder showed up in my desktop there. So I can right click and go to properties. And if I go to security, I can edit the permissions here. And I can add. Who did I just create? Accountant person. Memory of a goldfish. Accountant person. Now, when we're giving permissions here, really common thing you want to do is click check names. Windows is going to turn that text into basically a link showing that, like, yeah, I found who you were looking for. So I'm going to click check names. And if it found it, it's going to change the view a little bit just to show, like, yeah, I found who you were looking for. If you mistyped that, then it wouldn't resolve it. So clicking check names, something I always want to do using this kind of permissions editing. I'm going to click OK there. So yeah, I have added accountant person, and I'm happy with these permissions. So yeah, they can read and execute list contents and read. You know what? I'm going to let them change stuff in there too, but I'm not going to let them change the permissions. So I'm not going to grant them full control. So I'll click apply. And now if this accountant person logged into this computer, they would be able to modify the contents of this folder, the secure documents folder. Looks good. Looks good. So good. Now that I've done that, I'm actually going to undo it. So I'm just going to delete that folder. And you know what? I don't want this person on my computer anymore. So I'm going to find accountant person, right click, delete them. I'm going to get that warning. Yeah. You know what I should do just for fun? Let's show what happens on my desktop. Secure stuff. I'm actually going to go back and grant access again. I'll show what happens if you delete a user account, but you didn't remove the permissions. If I go to security, I'm going to edit. I'm going to add a user, accountant person, check names. Sure, those permissions are fine. Apply. Okay. Now what happens if I delete accountant person, but I didn't remove their permissions? I'm going to delete them. Yep. So now, what do you expect to happen? Think in your mind. What do you expect to happen when I look at the permissions here? So if I right click and I go to properties, security, it's like, what the heck? I still have accountant person the third, to be specific there. That's linked to a security identifier. So those permissions are baked into the folder now. So even though I deleted the account, I've still got some leftover permissions there. So it's not ideal to delete accounts if you haven't removed the permissions first, because what does this actually mean? This permission is not actually linked. We want to clean this up. I want to edit this. And I will remove this person. Click OK. Okay. So really important that we're careful about the way that we manage these permissions.